Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 17 of Rhythm Encounter, the RPG fan music podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Meyerink, Taylor's on the boards, and joining me today, we are changing up the structure of the show. My wonderful former co-host, Derek, is taking what we'll call an extended sabbatical from the show. He's gotten quite busy with school and needs to focus on that, so Derek is going to take a little break, but in Derek's place, but not necessarily replacing him, because you can never replace him, is former guest Caitlin Argyros.
Hello, everyone. Caitlin Argyros, Lean Kazero on the boards. I actually am on the boards now, but if you don't see me, it's because I can be kind of shy.
Well, that's okay. You were on the show before, and you were awesome, so now you get to become Supreme Overlord number 2.
No pressure.
Yeah, no pressure at all. I think, what did I call Derek? PIC, partner in crime? I don't remember. Whatever it is, I'll come up with a cool nickname for you, too. And also joining us today is perennial guest Mike Salbato.
Why am I still a guest?
Well, you're not really a guest, but that's why I called you perennial guest. Perpetual guest?
One day I will get that promotion.
You'll get that promotion one day.
Yeah.
Well, you'll get that promotion when I become a senior editor.
Okay. Yeah, we'll work on that.
Okay.
Okay. I'm Mike on the boards. You also probably won't see me around, but I'm technically there.
So hello to everybody. And so seeing how as we're, changing up our hosts and stuff, I'm also going to change the show a little bit just to make it flow a little faster. In the past, whenever we've done our recent album section, we've sort of listened to each one and then talked about it, as opposed to the main section where we sort of listen to each track in a block of 3. I'm going to change it now so we listen to all those recent albums together, just to sort of help the pace and, give a little bit more music and not quite divide it up as much. And I think that'll really, keep things moving in a more brisk clip. And our topic today is going to be new beginnings. That sounds hilariously appropriate, right? So, but before we get to that, the aforementioned recent album section. So I cheated a little bit. I have not yet reviewed the Divinity Original Sin soundtrack, but I really wanted to get this track in there because I am in the process of reviewing it. And that's Beyond the Waves of Time. This is the original soundtrack for that album is actually sort of a collection of songs, but not nearly all of them because there's hundreds of tracks in that game. But this is a really good one that sort of has some great variety to it. Following that, we have from the reviewed literally today, the Dragon Dragoon Drakengard 3 soundtrack, This Silence Is Mine. I picked that track because it's amazing, and I've wanted to get it on the show for a while. And then following that, we're going to have from the somewhat recently released piano opera Final Fantasy 7, 8, and 9 album. Bob Richardson reviewed that for us, and it's a really great album. And this one in particular, I've always found that Man with a Machine Gun doesn't arrange well. That's the Laguna battle theme from Final Fantasy VIII. I've just always found that it's sort of that weird sort of synthetic quality to it doesn't translate well to piano, but in this case, it really did. So let's go ahead and take a listen to Beyond the Waves of Time, The Silence Is Mine, and the Man with the Machine Gun piano opera version.
雑音の狭間ゆりかご誰にもこの肌には届かない雑音の狭間ゆりかご火の跡This tattoo, this display view
So I have subjected you guys to Divinity Original Sin music in the past, and I don't know why I chose that particular word, because I think the music in that game is fantastic, along with just about everything else in it. And so it's sort of cool, because they're clearly inspired by Chrono Trigger, because there's an area called the End of Time that not only looks like the End of Time from Chrono Trigger, but has a pretty similar function in terms of a hub area to get you to around the world of the game. And this song plays in the End of Time. And it's very dramatic. And that game has some really interesting stuff it does plot-wise with like the nature of time and stuff. So I think that this song supports it really well. It gives it like this air of mystery and stuff. And I think Caitlin and I both pointed out that part around a minute when the bass gets really bassy is just super cool.
Yes, I like it very much. It gets very quiet and then it builds. I like songs where it starts, simple and then it starts building on itself. And I liked how you've got the bass and then you have these like a little electronica bits that come in and then the melody comes back and it's all like cool.
Yeah, and then you got that. I cannot possibly describe what it was, but it was like a part that's sort of synthetic. I wrote twingy thing, but I don't think twingy thing is really a technical term. But I like that part. It's like a minute and 30 in, and it sort of underscores the part that's been playing before, like up to that point. And it just the layering in that song really gives it a great sense to me. I can't find my words.
Well, it's a good indication that it's awesome.
Yes, much like all the music in that game. At some point, I'll get some battle themes on here because they're very cool, and there's a ton of them.
I like that song more than I like you right now, Stephen. Because
Wow.
for anyone listening who doesn't know, I don't know if we've talked about it on the show, but Stephen is really, really good about making me spend money. So I don't know how many games I've bought this year because of you. So of course he wants people to play Divinity, so he's talking to us. Of course he has to say it's like Chrono Trigger, your favorite game ever. So you should probably buy it. I'm like,
He's twisting the knife.
It doesn't play like Chrono Trigger, but thematically there are some cool inspirations from Chrono Trigger.
I know, but between that and the music I've heard so far, I'm going to end up buying it, and it's your fault.
And if you end up buying it, remember, I will co-op the entire game with you.
Okay.
There are not many fantastic co-op RPGs out there. I hijacked the conversation on Random Encounter to talk about it a couple times, but Rob doesn't like it, so we always move on. Rob's wrong, though. And it's better than Wasteland. Ha, I could say that here and not get challenged. Anyway, Dragon Dragoon 3, Drakengard 3, This Silence is Mine. We've wanted this in the show since it existed. It's sort of amazing. The singer is Chihiro Onitsuka, and I didn't place her voice, but a quick Google search reminded me that she did the vocals in Castle Imitation, the Breath of Fire Dragon Quarter theme song. I don't even have words for how good that song is. It's so dramatic. I've heard that game has a really cool story and that the game itself is sort of terrible, which I sort of called that one a couple times, and everyone's like, no, Steven, it could be pretty good. But regardless, the soundtrack, it's very different from Nier. And I think that's to its credit, because Nier it's sort of like The Dark Knight. Like, The Dark Knight Rises tried to do The Dark Knight, but like a little differently, and I feel like as a result, it's sort of a lesser movie. Because imitating your best success is a good way to not live up to it, I feel like. So I like that Monaka did something different with the Drakengard 3 soundtrack. It's sort of, the sound is a little different. There's a couple of Nier-like tracks, but it's in tone a very different thing.
I agree especially about the vocalist. It's such a unique sound, raw sound to her voice that I think immediately kind of, you pause when you hear it, like, wow, I haven't heard that before. And the way that her voice and the music and the accompaniment is all just kind of building from the beginning all the way to the end. It just gets more dramatic and louder, and by the end where she's really kind of booming.
Oh yeah. Like it like grabs your attention. Like, it's a long song. It's like a 7-minute song. And the fact that it doesn't become repetitious at all, it's sort of like a lot of the Bravely Default tracks that Revo did, where you don't run into repetition because the song just has it has a changing dynamic as it progresses, and I think that's really just fantastic. It makes me want to play the game, even though I am 90% sure I would hate it. Other than the story, which, I still haven't beaten Nier, and I hear the story's great in that, and I sort of like the gameplay in Nier, so that I would play its follow-up that has crappier gameplay is unlikely.
Although it has dragons.
I do like dragons, but Kingdom Hearts has dragons as well, so I could just play that.
Always back to Kingdom Hearts.
It is always back to Kingdom Hearts.
Yes.
There are a lot of games that have dragons.
I've loved that song since, as usual, you introduced me to it. I think it was either when the Japanese game came out or even before. Like there was a link to it on YouTube or however someone got it. I have no idea.
Yeah, I think they released it as a single, if I recall, before the soundtrack.
Okay, yeah, but until I could actually get the soundtrack or listen to it like any other way, I'm pretty sure I had it bookmarked at some point. So I would just load up YouTube just to play that one song like on a loop. I love that song so much.
It's, yeah, like we sort of are just going in circles discussing how fantastic it is, but hopefully people agree because I think that is far and away it's not the only song of merit on the track, but it's definitely the most memorable in my opinion.
Oh, for sure.
And then speaking of memorable, the Man with the Machine Gun, I feel like everybody that's played Final Fantasy VIII sort of like, you can go Laguna's battle theme and everyone's like, oh yeah, it's awesome. Like, I don't know anyone that doesn't find that song awesome. And Caitlin, don't disappoint me here.
I too find it awesome.
Okay, good. We're good. You get to stay. I'm gonna make jokes about that for a while.
I passed the test.
You passed the test for now. We'll talk about Kingdom Hearts later and see if you pass the real test.
No, no. Final exam.
It is the final exam. It's the introductory and the final and the midterm.
It's 90% of your grade.
It is pretty much all your grade. But so I said this beforehand, but I really feel like Man with the Machine Gun doesn't arrange well. It's just that quality of the song that sort of captures that otherworldliness. Like you don't quite know what's happening at first, and like who are you? Why are you this dude? There are all these people fighting differently that are sort of like your main cast, and it's difficult to capture that sort of mystery like the original track does. Partially because it's using the PlayStation sound, and that's pretty distinctive. But just that do 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 that part I feel like it's never been done well by an orchestra or by piano. And I think you actually disagree with me here, Caitlin. I'm not sure. We'll talk about it, but I really think it does the intro well, but more importantly, I think it does the main melody better than any other arrangement.
Well, I actually really like the orchestral version on the Liberali orchestral album that came out. I forget the full name of it anyway, that had all of the arranged versions.
Oh, yeah, okay, right. Yeah, I think it was actually called Liberi Fatale. I can't remember.
Yeah. I actually really love that version, but I can agree that the sort of trance style of this song can be really hard to translate, and have it be an arrangement without being just a carbon copy, which is why I think I actually did like the opening just because it was so different. It almost sounds kind of dark and dramatic, and it's slow, and it's completely different from what you're expecting when you think about this track. And then it goes into what sounds more familiar, and I like that that's sort of a variation on a theme within the piece.
No, I think that's exactly right, and I think that's why I feel that it captures it so well.
Yeah, I feel the same way you do. Like I don't know where I've heard what. I've heard different arrangements and remixes and
you do sort of lose track as time goes on. You're like, where did I hear this version?
Yeah, but I forgot about that version, Caitlin. That is a good one. But I've heard a lot of others, and it's, if you're on OC Remix or YouTube or wherever you are, like there's some songs and like, oh, there's an arrangement. I'll listen to that. And I don't think I found one that really, like you said, there's something about that song that doesn't always remix or arrange well. Except in this case, I like this one a lot. I was actually really thrown off by the intro. I was like, what song is this? Until like the main melody kicks in, but I thought.
Yes, actually, that was my reaction at first too.
Yeah, I thought I was playing the wrong song.
Excuse me, what is this? Yeah, well, it's definitely very different from how you would usually hear that.
Yeah, but a good different.
All right, well, let's go ahead and talk about our very appropriate topic for a lot of reasons, new beginnings. This was your idea for a topic, Caitlin, so why don't you explain what the criteria was today that I'm going to cheat to get my final track involved in?
Sure. So I was thinking I'm new or newish on this show, so let's kind of play with this idea about new. And I was thinking, well, new game. So music that plays when you do a new game for the first time. So this could be like the title screen music or the opening cutscene or maybe the first town or dungeon or battle. Anything that's sort of within like the first couple of hours that you're playing where you're still kind of getting a feel for the game and for the game's music.
Excellent. And so I sort of expanded it a little bit to also think about it as new beginnings in the context of the story of what's happening. Sort of like, I would have played it if I hadn't already played the song, but in Golden Sun in the Lost Age, when you get your original party from the first game, the world map song changes, sort of to signify that you're coming to the end of this journey. Like, things have shifted, people's goals have changed, and it's a new beginning of sorts. So I sort of use that as a thing as well. One of my picks is from the introduction from a second disc of a game, and that's sort of where everything shifts and it's a new beginning. So I sort of expanded your topic a little bit too, just so I could fit a few of mine in there.
Well, that's good, because that's exactly what I did for one of my tracks too.
There you go. Perfect. See, I let you cheat. That's the thing. You know, we'll get to that. Mike says I can't have my last track, but I'm cheating. I'm doing it anyway. Anyways, to start with, our first block of tracks, Caitlin, you picked the first one.
Yes, I picked Happy Adventure, Delightful Adventure from Super Mario RPG, which is my very first RPG, and hence one of the reasons why I picked it.
It's a good reason to pick it. It's a great song, too. Well, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about it after we listen to it. And then, Mike, you were up next?
Yeah, I actually picked a song. I've been trying to get stuff, because I know we always need more Western music. And I've played World of Warcraft for a while, so I've been wanting to get a song in here, but never could fit a theme. So this is the intro to the Wrath of the Lich King expansion, although it's the one from the trailer, the narrated version, so it's not technically the song by itself. But
I and it was sort of unusual for me to include something like that, but I actually really like it. I feel like the narration sort of complements that song well, because it was designed to be together, you know?
Right.
And then I picked the third track, and this is something I wanted to get on the show for a while, from a game that should always be on the show. It's Ring a Bell by Bonnie Pink from Tales of Vesperia, and it's awesome. Unfortunately, it's not like Tales of the Abyss's theme song Karma, where there's a battle arrange of it, but I really feel like this sort of, I don't know, Tales games always have great vocal intros, so let's go ahead and take a listen. Coming up, we've got Happy Adventure, Delightful Adventure, Arthas My Son, and Ring a Bell.
my son. The day you were born, the very forests of Lordaeron whispered the name Arthas. Child, I watched with pride as you grew into a weapon of righteousness. Remember, our line has always ruled with wisdom and strength. And I know you will show restraint when exercising your great power. Truest victory, my son, is stirring the hearts of your people. I tell you this, for when my days have come to an end, you shall be king.
Trust what to say. Found them all.
So I mentioned before that this Super Mario RPG is the very first RPG I ever played, and I didn't quite understand when I was playing it that RPGs were a thing. This is my embarrassing RPG origin story. I didn't realize it until like I played Final Fantasy VII on PS1 years later that it was like a genre and that Super Mario RPG was part of it.
That's how I felt when I played Phantasy Star. I was like, wait, there are more games like this?
What? I know, you're like, there's more? I can have more? I can has RPG? So I love this track to death.
I'm actually dancing to it right now. In my chair.
Then it's a good thing that it's only audio on this podcast.
Correct.
So this plays during like the opening montage tracked movie before you, I think before you start a game. And it's just like this, you know, like I said, a montage of various different places you go and things you do. And with this incredibly happy, fittingly for the title, happy song with, I love the percussion. How it just starts off and the sort of whistles that are going in the background.
Like that. Do, 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 do.
Yes.
Like, oh, man. It's bassy, and I just love it. Like, just, it suits the bouncy nature of the game so well.
Yes,
that whole game has an incredible soundtrack, though. It's, like, there are games that have great soundtracks, but this is a game that soundtrack is great that perfectly matches the tone of the experience. Much like all the other Mario RPGs. Shimomura is a genius.
Yeah, she is.
And then
I was saying, go ahead.
I was just saying, so also I love that it works in the main Mushroom Kingdom theme. Like, it's awesome. It's so it's thematically consistent. This is an earlier Shimomura work, and it's so like I can't think of the word. It's well written and sort of really well understood. It's just fantastic.
Yeah, while we were listening to it, I was saying I like the song a lot. I wish she would do some other stuff.
She's done this other series that I like a lot.
Oh, really? What is it?
It's Kingdom Hearts. Did you know that?
Oh, I've never heard of that. You should tell us about it one day.
Moving on. So,
I don't even know where you're going with that. Yes.
Arthas is bad.
Well, he is now.
Well,
he used to be good.
It's very tragic. Like, that's... So I haven't played Wrath of the Lich King. I've only ever gotten level 30 in World of Warcraft. But I beat Warcraft 3 and Frozen Throne, and I always thought, back before Blizzard constantly did the corrupted hero stereotype, that his was a really great story because it's a complete arc just in the human campaign. And then in the Frozen Throne, it's like, you remember when Arthas was like a young dude just out being a hero, and then, you know, he gets Frostmourne and gets corrupted. And I think you did this on purpose. It's really tragic to have the vocals where, if you see the video, it's basically the Lich King getting ready to just do evil, and he's sort of stirring his corrupted undead or whatever to, you know, go and be horrible to the world. And but it's the same sort of quotes his father said, if I recall, from the ending of Warcraft 3, where he has become possessed by Frostmourne or corrupted by it and kills his father and becomes basically a tyrant, you know? So it's really cool that you have that, you know, these words that are clearly meant for a different Arthas being associated with him doing things that are the kind of opposite of what they say. It's just proof that Blizzard can really write a cutscene. But we've always known that.
And design one.
Yeah.
Which is why I kind of wish the movie would just be CG, because their CG team is just incredible.
Yeah, and you know, it's not just that the CG itself is impressive looking. Blizzard has always had a great understanding of how to capture of cinematography. Like, even back to like Diablo 2, like when Tyrael first fights Mephisto in the cutscene, it's just amazing. Like it used to be like so spectacular to watch, and they went up themselves every time they do a new CG. Diablo 3's plot is terrible, but the cutscenes are awesome.
Oh yeah, so I love that song, which is why I picked it. I guess I should talk about it. Huh?
Yeah, talk about it.
Yeah, no, that see, I didn't play Warcraft 3, unlike you. So my introduction to Arthas and all of that was in World of Warcraft, and I think that's when I started really getting into the lore of the game, was because of that. Him and that intro, and I watched that intro so much. It's
so dramatic. Like, you know me, I can be bought with high drama and dramatic music, and this had all of those things. It had, like, you know, Shakespearean tragedy, you know, this is super, like, the drama of the music swelling as he's saying, like, you know, it's such a a dissonance with these like heroic words of like a true king to Arthas, who is the opposite of all those things. I just love it. Yep. I wrote such drama. Wow.
Caitlin?
We're never going to be rid of that meme.
No.
So I don't have either of your background with World of Warcraft. I've never played any of the games, although of course everyone knows WoW. But this is still a really interesting track to listen to, just because of how dark and ominous it is, pretty much from start to finish. Although I really love the part near the beginning with I think it's a young boy singing, very haunting but beautiful melody, which is kind of counterpoint to, I guess, what you're seeing in the trailer where it plays, because it's in this frozen wasteland and there's not good things happening.
Yeah, Arthas is getting ready to be a jerk. He's good at that. And then the last track is the one I picked, Ring a Bell, so it's two different tracks, actually. It's sort of like Hikari or Passion from Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2, where there's an English version of the track and a Japanese version where the singer has sung both versions. And then I think you said, Caitlin, Mamoritai from Tales of Graces also has an English and Japanese version?
Yep. And they're both very good. I have a hard time picking which one I like more.
Yeah, definitely it's tough for me to pick a difference between the two of these, the Japanese and the English Ring a Bell. Back before Vesperia came out, my best friend and I had played Abyss together, and we're super excited to play through this one, which we never ended up doing, but someday. And so I remember I got on iTunes, they released a single for Ring a Bell, and I had the English version, but then I could find the Japanese version elsewhere. And I like this version better because I know the words, and I was singing them while we were listening. And just...
You're welcome, podcast listeners, that you can't hear that.
You're not welcome. I'm gonna add it in over this. But it's... First of all, this song's very opposite in tone from Arthas murdering people.
A little bit.
The guitar riff is, I think, my favorite part. It's just the sort of flow of this song just really just makes me want to jam to it, you know? I just love the guitar riffs during the particular parts of the song, and just like all the backing aspects. I wish I had a better musical vocabulary to talk about it, but that like do part behind the guitar at the particular crests is just like love it.
It's a very catchy opening, especially combined with the animation that plays, where you're I think it starts off where you see a couple of the party members' faces, and I remember Rita's especially. She just looks so pleased with herself.
Sounds like Rita.
Yeah, of course.
Yukari voices her. I didn't realize that.
Yes, which is part of why she's awesome. But it does have a lot of great energy to it, especially it just starts off with the drums, and it flows really well with the visuals of that animated opening. So, and I appreciate that it was re-recorded in English. It's kind of fun lyrics to sing along to, like you were doing. So I totally understand why you would sing along.
And you know what's interesting is I believe this is the immediate follow-up to Tales of the Abyss. And I think this was back when Microsoft cared about courting any sort of Japanese audience and was helping fund all these JRPGs on Xbox 360, like, you know, Lost Odyssey, fantastic. And so the production values on this game were quite a bit higher than I recall them being prior to that. You know, Symphonia had good ones because Nintendo backed up the translation of it. You know, having the re-recorded vocals was a big shift because up to this point, we either didn't get the vocal theme from a Tales game or we got like Karma where they cut the words out of it. So to get, for the fact that they had re-recorded English lyrics really showed that Microsoft was sort of putting some weight behind getting this game to another audience. And, you know, worked out well for us. They're done doing that, but, you know, we don't get that anymore. So it's cool.
Well, now it's even better, though, because now we're getting the original Japanese opening. Like, Bamco's no longer worried about, or at least we hope they're no longer worried.
Yeah, very true. They're announcing Tales games in advance, so, you know, we're in a different age of Tales games now. Ross and I, my best friend and I always hoped, we bought Tales of Legendia because we had read that if people bought that, they would sell Abyss here, and we had heard Abyss was amazing. So, you know, that's how dicey this was until very recently that we would even get Tales games.
Yeah, and then somehow they announced one for Japan, North America, and Europe simultaneously, which I still can't get over.
What magic? What sorcery is this?
I know.
We live in a golden age.
We do.
Ring a bell, great stuff. Mike, you picked our next track. Let's start our next block. What's taking us in?
We're starting with To Xanarkand, which another song I want to get on the show, and it's really hard to pick because unlike Man with a Machine Gun, I think it does arrange well, and I have so many versions of it.
And they're all wonderful.
They're all wonderful, but I've been on this Taylor Davis kick since I flew to Seattle to see her show. So I picked the Taylor Davis version of To Xanarkand. And anyone who doesn't know her, she's a violinist. I hate the term YouTube sensation, but that's really what she is.
So. Her YouTube videos are very popular. She does really cool cosplay. She did a cover of the Last of Us theme and dressed like Ellie, and it was really cool. High production values.
There was a clicker in that.
Yeah, there was a clicker, and she looked just about. She makes a facial expression when she notices the clicker that is, I feel like, ripped from my soul, because every time you hear a clicker in The Last of Us, you're like, ah.
Anyway, that's that, and then the next song is from one of you.
It's mine. It's the Mass Effect theme from the first Mass Effect. For some of you, this might be back when Mass Effect was good, but we'll get into that later. You're next.
And then I picked the final track, and I dug further back into time than either of you. And I pulled up one of my all-time favorite intro themes from Wild Arms 2. This is not the first intro theme. This is the Disc 2 intro, and it just opens and is just explosively awesome. And let's just listen to it. I got nothing right now. So coming up, we've got To Xanarkand, the Mass Effect theme, and Resistance Line.
てゆく幾千の赤い影たち切りつけたこの腕で悲しい記憶抱きしめ始まる未来そのことを感じて誰だって本当は誰のことも傷つけたくないと思っているけれど守りたい大切なものあるなら自分にさえあらかうのだろう生きてる今そのすべてで帰りたい場所がある愛してる人がいる絶望に落ちないわけはただそれだけれ巡りつる時の中探してきたものが壊れやすい夢ならば始まる未来その強さ信じて誰だって本当は胸の奥に痛みを隠してるわかっているけれど守りたい大切なものあるなら優しささえ失うのだろう激しさだけ振りかざして誰だって本当は誰のことも傷つけたくないと思っているけれど守りたい大切なものあるなら自分にさえあらかうのだろう生きてる今そのすべてで
So Tuesday Anarchin is one of those songs. It's sort of like Terra's theme. It's well beloved. It's probably the most, I mean, personally, maybe other than Otherworld, I feel like it's probably the most notorious song from 10. It's always been my favorite. I love that it sort of accompanies the intro, because that's sort of the first time you get a Final Fantasy intro like that. Like, you remember the first time you played 10 and, like, 7 starts with just the sword in the ground. It's awesome. And, that you get the prelude beeping along to the title screen. Final Fantasy 8 has that cool little, like, military march of all the characters' bodies, like, going by in black and white. 9 has a place I'll return to someday. It's great. 10 is the first time you have, like, this song and voices and people, like, there's a story happening before your eyes. Like, they're like, hey, this is where we're at, and we're going to get you caught up. Like, it's really cool, and this particular version of it, the string arrangement is just amazing. Like, especially, I think it's, like, right around, just about the 2-minute mark. Just the way she has arranged it is so cool. It gets weightier and more dramatic. It starts out very light, and can't say enough good things about how this is put together.
I totally agree. I think adding a violin in, it somehow, it's already kind of a melancholy-ish song, especially with the context in the game, but having that violin just makes it so much more kind of sad to me, in a good way, not in a bad way.
Yeah, it feels very tragic.
And then I love that part you mentioned where the accompaniment kind of builds a little bit, and she's no longer just playing the melody. She's sort of playing the melody and working in accompaniment together on the violin, and it's really, really beautiful and graceful how she does it. And I think the choice of accompaniment throughout the entire piece is really smart too, because it's enough to help accompany her solo violin without overpowering her, and helping her violin without necessarily taking too much of your attention away from her, if that makes sense.
Yeah, like the violin's still the star for sure.
Yeah.
I really like that song.
Taylor Davis in general, we just recently reviewed our gaming fantasy album, which is a lot of different games, and
including this one. And all of her arrangements are excellent. I think it really highlights the right parts of the song. You know, you run into those arrangements that don't highlight the part you love. It's sort of like every Final Fantasy VII arrangement has to get the bridge right or it shouldn't exist. Like that that part. If you get that part wrong, don't write your Final Fantasy VII arrangement. I can say that objectively with certainty. And I think Taylor Davis's arrangements very, very often, if not all the time, know where to emphasize. And in this particular case, like that part I mentioned, right about 2 minutes, like where the violin gets a little bit slower paced and a little bit more dramatic and more tragic. And I think that's great because one of my favorite parts about 10 is that 10 is a story about sacrifice that actually requires sacrifice. It's great. Yeah, I didn't mean to pick two really heavy songs in a row like that, but
seriously,
I know.
Apologize.
Keep bringing people down here. Okay, well, I already apologized, so now I have to take it back somehow.
How about we take it back and talk about the Mass Effect theme, which...
Yes, let's do that.
This song just gets more and more dramatic. It builds, but it's very... The first Mass Effect is sort of more, I would say, spacey, electronic. It has these dramatic, brassy parts, but not nearly to the extent that 2 and 3 do. And, you can argue that they got bought by EA and it became more of a streamlined shooter type experience, but... This mirrors the escalation of the story in the game really well, because Mass Effect starts out, it's just like, hey, there's a rogue Spectre, and things are getting bigger and bigger, and then all of a sudden it's like, hey, Reapers. So I like that this song mirrors the acceleration of the plot in that it slowly becomes more dramatic too.
That's a good analysis. I didn't actually think of it that way, which, I don't know. That's weird. I feel kind of bad now. I'm not a true Mass Effect fan. I didn't think of it that way.
Well, you remain loyal to the series after I abandoned it with the ending of 3, so you get to be more of a fan than I do.
Yeah, so, yeah. I was going to say, I don't want to start, a debate about Mass Effect 3 or even, 2 going into 3, but it was a really amazing experience for me from start to, almost, 5 steps before the finish line. And a really big part of that was, of course, the music. And this theme, this is the beginning. This is where it all starts. And this theme that no matter how many times I listen to it or how many times I start a new game and spend an hour in the Shepard creator hoping it's going to turn out right, I never get tired of listening to it. I never get tired of watching it. Even if my Shepard turns out looking hideous, I love listening to this music and the cutscene that follows it. So,
what about Shepard? I'll make the call. I just remember the end of that. It's Anderson and Udina talking about Shepard, and it's based on your origins, and it always ends with "I'll make the call." And it reminds me of that Sears commercial where it's like, "It's so hot. I'll call the store tomorrow. You call now. I'll call now. I'll make the call." I always imagine that they're calling Sears to get Shepard.
I should go.
This is my favorite podcast on the Citadel. What I also like, too, is this sort of phrases of this theme are carried into 2. And I think that's great. That's a great thing for 2 to be doing. But I like, this is a great start to the series. And I agree. It accompanies it really well. Great song. Speaking of great songs, Wild Arms 2, maybe hasn't aged super well. In hindsight, I feel like there are probably better Wild Arms games like 1, 3, and 4, and 5, which I finally started. But I just adore the trumpet in this song. It's just like somebody went they're going ham on the trumpet here, and it's amazing. It's just that gif on the image of the guy putting his hands in his forehead and exploding them outwards, and there's stars behind it, blowing your mind. That's the trumpet in this song, and I love the lyrics too.
Yeah, the trumpet is just amazing.
That's my favorite part is the trumpet. Actually,
I've I don't play the trumpet. I wouldn't even know how, but I know since it's a wind instrument, it seems like that'd be really hard to play at that pace. But
doesn't Narukami play trumpet in Persona 4 if you go in the music club?
Yes, I think
so. So you do kind of play trumpet through him.
Yeah, the Wild Arms series has always made a name for itself from the first one with those anime intros. Like the intro to Wild Arms 1 is just classic. Mm-hmm. And 2's got a great intro in Disc 1, but this song it's a really long game, so this really does reinvigorate you when you get to Disc 2 and you hear this. It's like, oh man, like even the color tone of the cutscene changes. It's very bluish and sort of the dawn of the adventure and animated cutscene for Disc 1. And then when you get to this, it's like it starts out with the sun setting. Like this is the second half of the story. Everything accompanies it so well. And it also carries in sort of parts of main melody from the original track from the Disc 1 intro theme. So it's very cool that it carries it forward. Lots of good things to say about this intro theme. Speaking of lots of good things to say, I picked our next track, and you guys picked one each too. So I'm a big fan of the original Deus Ex and its soundtrack. It's Alexander Brandon, and I think there was another composer involved, and I feel bad that I can't remember off the top of my head. But the original Mass Effect theme is sort of like the song everyone remembers. You know, it's been redone in like the Cathedral version later in the game. The original Deus Ex is a great game too, and Human Revolution has an awesome soundtrack too. Originally, I picked Icarus from Human Revolution because I think it's just a more mature piece of music than the Mass Effect main theme. But then, just recently, and I think this has been a work in progress for a while, but Nervous Test Pilot, who, if I'm not mistaken, is the composer of Frozen Synapse, which is a really cool PC strategy game that I think just came out on Vita, did an OC remix of the UNATCO theme from Deus Ex 1. And so for a little bit of introduction, UNATCO is the organization you work for at the start of Mass Effect. And when you first enter the UNATCO building, it's like this is where the journey begins. Like UNATCO is like the root of all the things in the storyline. And so this is a really great arrangement of the sort of mystery and, you know, the sort of lurking tension in the theme. Have I said Mass Effect several times? I feel like I've said Mass Effect several times, but it's Deus Ex. So they just pointed out that I've been saying that. But yeah, so the track's called Neo Nature. It's an OC remix. It's very cool by Nervous Test Pilot. And then Mike, you picked our next track.
Yeah, I picked the track and I was trying to explain to both of you guys like where it plays in the game, and I know where it is, but I couldn't name the plot development. But this is Our Departure. It's one of the world map themes from Breath of Fire 2.
Woo, woo, woo! Game we've never had before.
So, and again, I don't remember the exact plot development, which is probably because I played this game in 1995. But
let's do it a lot in 1995.
There's some event that happens, and you get a new world map theme, and it's a new beginning, so to speak. So that's when that plays. And then the third track in this block is from Caitlin.
And before you introduce it, Caitlin, I want to point out that I had nothing to do with this selection. But I appreciate it.
Well, that is, of course, what I strive for, is to please you, almighty podcast ruler.
Well, you're a ruler. You're one of the rulers now, too, so...
Yeah, but I'm, like, in the new phase where I'm still, like, kind of nervous about my ruling authority, so I'm not like taking
okay, so you're not drunk on power yet like I am. Okay,
no, that will come later. It might even come as early as next episode.
You can say it like Bane. No, that comes later. Now is not the time for arrogance.
To be fair, rulers can still please each other, though. You know, even if you get to that point, you can still please each other.
Michael,
with song picks.
You don't take this in the wrong direction.
I'm talking about songs. What are you talking about?
Let's talk about songs.
Yeah.
Caitlin, what song did you pick from a game that I always like to pick songs from, but have been disallowed from doing so in recent years?
I picked Garden of God, or depending on your translation, Garden of the Gods, from Chrono Cross, which is the title music that plays with that really beautiful underwater imagery on the main screen.
As you introduce that track, I just want you to be aware, listeners, that you should imagine me dancing to the Persona 4 Battle Victory theme while she said Chrono Cross, just because that's how happy I am to have it back.
And with that simulating imagery in all of our brains, let's listen to Neo Nature, OC Remix from Deus Ex, Our Departure from Breath of Fire 2, and Garden of God from Chrono Cross.
So, the Neo Nature song, first of all, you might be familiar with this if you haven't played the original Deus Ex, because as Caitlin pointed out, and I remembered after the fact, this actually, and a range of this actually plays when you first enter Seraph's office in Human Revolution, very beginning of the game. But as a fan of the original Deus Ex, it's just, I heard that, and I was like, oh, this is perfect, because it thematically is appropriate, because entering Seraph's office is sort of when you're first entering into the intrigue and mystery going on in Human Revolution. And so it sort of calls back to the moment you enter UNATCO. And I just feel like this remix of it captures all that drama. Like, Deus Ex is a big story with big ideas. And as the super cool electronic voice says at the end, we are our choices. That's those lines, we are Daedalus, we are Icarus, the barriers between us have fallen. That stuff culled from the storyline of Deus Ex. Daedalus and Icarus are two important figures in that storyline, and it's very high drama, and this song captures that just brilliantly. I love what it does with the UNATCO theme, sort of starting and ending with just the basic unadorned melody, and then building it up into this awesome electronic symphony.
Yeah, so I'm actually one of those people who knows this theme from the Easter egg in Deus Ex Human Revolution, because I hadn't played the first two before I got to Human Revolution. But I really liked it, so much that when I heard it, I was like, okay, what is that? And I YouTubed the original theme from Deus Ex, and I was like, this is awesome. So I love this theme, and I love what Nervous Test Pilot does with it, especially when the beat comes in, and you've got that bass working with it, and it gets really kind of epic sounding at that point. And there's a really cool variation that happens a little bit before 4 minutes in, I think, where it still kind of keeps the sound of the theme, but it's going in different places with it, which I really enjoyed. And then the other thing I thought was really cool is I guess it's a Vocaloid or some sort of synth sound, but it sounds like singing throughout the song, and you're never quite sure really what it is. It kind of oscillates sort of between sounding like real vocals and something else, and I thought that really fits the sort of techno sound of the track.
It's so fantastic that you would point that out, that sort of human singularity with technology. You can't tell the difference, because the plot of Deus Ex does involve, especially the ending of the storyline, revolves around a lot about man and machine sort of becoming one. So, and that's the whole thing with the augmentations that carries through to Human Revolution. So that is captured in the song. I think would make the remixer really happy to hear that, because it does capture that quality of the storyline just through, like, you're not quite sure if this is a human or if this is a robot.
I think it's interesting that I agree with you that you would call it kind of epic sounding, because you don't usually get, I don't know, I'm sure there's other examples and people will prove me wrong, but usually when you get a really cool, like, electronic song, I don't know, I don't think electronic and epic usually go together like a big grand production. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think it did here. So I think it's pretty interesting that they managed to accomplish that.
Must def. Speaking of dramatic, but not electronic, Breath of Fire. What's the word I want here? Having played Curtain Call a lot, I've been playing Romancing Saga music, new DLC, and I've always loved Super Nintendo music, and like anybody who's ever loved SNES music knows it has that quality that you can easily tell where it's from. And this sort of, Breath of Fire is sort of always, to me at least, has come across on the internet in its reputation as like a well-beloved but sort of second-stringer series in the hearts of players. But people who have played them really love them. Like, I've beaten the first one, and I liked it, didn't love it. I love Dragon Quarter, and someday I'm going to play 3 and 4 because I hear they're amazing. But Breath of Fire 2 has a really, I think it has a loyal following, and this music does encompass to me what I always think about when I think about Breath of Fire 1. So, I like it.
2, at least for speaking for myself, I like 2 way better than 1. So if you didn't like 1, I would still play 2. Just play the one with the good translation. So not the original.
With the more gooder translation.
The less bad translation. How about that? Yeah, but I like that song a lot. It's very again, whatever the event was, I'm sure it was a big moment. Whatever it is, but then you get onto the map and you get this like, oh, I need to go do something. I'm inspired now.
It's dramatic and new.
Yeah, but happy, which is different from my other tracks.
Yeah, for once. Professor.
Well, I'm happy that you identified it as a world map theme, because I, not having played this game, listening to this by itself, that was my first thought. This sounds like a world map theme, and I'm happy to hear that my first guess was correct. But it's a really, I like, it's short, but I like how it moves through the different parts. I love the sort of almost, it feels like kind of like a military kind of percussion that it has, kind of moving the pace a little bit. And the flute, I guess it would be the verse, I guess, is really pretty.
I agree. Again, I like that too. The SNES style flute. I do like that.
So I had the next pick of the block, Garden of God from Chrono Cross. This was another early RPG for me. It's not my first RPG that had its music composed by Mitsuda. That was, of course, Xenogears. But I think this was the very next one that I heard him do. And I still think it's one of the best scores for an RPG ever. I think, and I'm sure Steven would agree with me.
Steven still to this day thinks Chrono Cross is the single most perfect soundtrack ever written for a game. I think, and I don't think I would be going out of my way to say that Mitsuda is probably best known for Xenogears and Chrono Cross at this point. I think that's probably his legacy.
Yeah.
Like, he's done a lot of great work outside of those, but I feel like these two, by many fans, are probably the most complete albums he's done. And
well, plus, what game is it or what soundtrack is it he did that 14 years later now people are still asking for an arranged version?
Aww.
I know.
You reminded me.
I'm sad about it too because I want it really bad, but the fact that it's still like we still hope that he'll do it one day.
Especially with Square Enix being, Square Enix Music does a lot of arranged albums. I'm like, why is there no Chrono Cross arranged album yet? Get somebody to do it.
Hey, they did an arranged album for Xenogears, so
they did 3 arranged albums for Xenogears. Yeah. So regarding this particular track, though, Chrono Cross has that otherworldly feel that I think a lot, again, I always joke that the Chrono Cross is polarizing, and it's only because those people are wrong, but it has a very different style to Chrono Trigger. Chrono Trigger has a very friends on an adventure type sound. It's very dramatic and great, but I think Chrono Cross has that otherworldly sort of things that are even farther beyond the ken of man than Chrono Trigger is. And Garden of God is such a great introduction to that because it's very ethereal. It follows the sort of the title screen, like you said, Caitlin, where it's just underwater and fish. And it's like, that is such an iconic title screen. Like, that's up there with Xenoblade, like The Last of Us, for more recent examples of just amazing title screens that utterly encapsulate the wonder of that story.
That's actually exactly why I picked it. Because I remember, everyone loves Scars of Time, and the thing that plays during the sort of montage movie, if you don't hit start at some point, they're both really good, and I had a hard time picking between them, but this is the piece when I hear it, I'm sorry to see it go. Like, I hate if you don't press start, when it goes to, like, I love it and I hate it because I love the montage movie, but I hate missing the rest of this song with that beautiful title screen behind it, so that's why I picked it.
Good work.
I agree.
Your mission, your first day as co-host has successfully gone. Like Yoda talk I do, dramatic occasion. But
past I did?
Yes, you get to stay because you picked Chrono Cross for your first day. So perfect. Yeah, I could talk about it all day. We already know that I can't. You got to rein me in when it comes to Chrono Cross.
All right. So our next block
starts with you.
Was that me volunteering to introduce it? Yeah, I guess I was.
That was you.
It does start with me. Okay, I went Super Nintendo again. I don't really plan that way, but this is someone remind me the Japanese name of this game.
Tenchi Sozo.
Thank you. Okay, I call it Terranigma.
So do I.
Although that's only because in Europe it was called Terranigma, and somehow or another this game was released in Europe in English and still never made it here.
Not even on Wii U, like not even on Virtual Console.
Yeah, we gotta get Nintendo to work on that, or someone to work on it.
This is a game that captures that otherworldly thing brilliantly, but we'll talk about it more after. What track did you pick from it?
Oh, opening.
Perfect.
I think that's what the official title of the song. I don't know.
Well,
but it's the opening of the game. Okay.
And then I picked our next track. This is Exciting Battle from Valkyria Chronicles 2. This was the sequel to the first Valkyria Chronicles, which we saw it on the PSP, and I actually quite liked the game. It's gotten a lot of criticism, but I liked it. And this is like the very first battle in the game, so hence our theme. And then, Steven, you have our last pick.
Yes, so I cheated to get this one on here, sort of. This is from Curtain Call. But it's an original song. This is from Theater Rhythm, the new Final Fantasy Rhythm game. And this is a track you unlock. Sorry, it's an unlock spoiler, but this is the series medley arranged from Theater Rhythm Final Fantasy Curtain Call. And I picked this because playing it, when you play it in-game, it plays with scenes from all 14 main Final Fantasies that are out at the moment playing in the background, and it's impossible to not love. Like, if you have ever loved the series, I don't understand how you could listen to this and not be moved by it, because it's such a great tribute to the series. And the reason I think it fits our theme is because we're sort of at this point where Square Enix is having a renaissance. They've fixed Final Fantasy XIV. Final Fantasy 15 is finally coming out. Type 0 is coming out here. The series is really trying to have a rebirth after the sort of non-start that I think it had with the 13 trilogy. For whatever reason, even people like that game, but it definitely sort of is getting a reboot now. So I feel like this is a great way to sort of divide up. Like, all right, the next generation of Final Fantasy starts, and this new journey begins with this awesome tribute song that was made specifically for Curtain Call. So coming up, we've got the opening from Terranigma, exciting battle from Valkyria Chronicles 2, and the series medley from Theatrhythm Curtain Call.
Okay, so first of all, that song is apparently not called Opening, like my soundtrack is, but it's called Light and Darkness, which is a much better title.
Also appropriate.
Also appropriate, if you've never played the game.
You should. It's great.
Yes, if you can find a way to play it, you should definitely do that. It did come out in Europe, so if you have a Super Nintendo, well, that plays European games, then you should do that. And if you don't, I have one in my closet and I'm willing to sell it. But
what?
yeah, I actually do.
Are you willing to let me borrow it?
Someone gave it to me years ago. It's like, I don't want this anymore. You want this? I'm like, what? What am I going to do with it? But yeah, I still have it.
Wait, the game or the Super Nintendo?
No, it's the European Super Nintendo that comes with like Street Fighter 2.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Anyway, that's a great song from a great. It's weird if you're not familiar with it. Like, it's technically the third game in a series, although the 3 games aren't actually related in any way. And we got Soul Blazer and Illusion of Gaia. Like, Nintendo brought out the second one here, and then Nintendo released Terranigma in Europe and not here.
That's such a weird... I wonder... I'm sure it's been discovered now why that was the case, but I'm really curious as to why it was never released here.
I don't know. I mean, RPGs weren't as big back then here. Maybe they just determined it wouldn't sell. Maybe that's
But we had like Secret of Mana and Secret of Evermore, and like action RPGs of that kind certainly weren't unprecedented.
No, but then remember, after Secret of Mana, we didn't get the other game, so...
The better game, in my opinion. No, I know you love Secret of Mana, but I love the second one.
Yeah, so it's like that was a common thing back then. It's like, we'll release this game, and then the next one comes out in Japan, and never mind. We're done. Anyway, great
Strange
song.
times. Yeah. Oh, I think it's great. Like, love the piano. And it's this very... All right, so this is not going to sound as articulate as I want it to, but... So the soundscape, like, I imagine that this song is being played in, like, a wide, hollow place. It feels very... sort of like the sound is bouncing off of an empty room. And I feel like that's intentional, because the beginning of this game, you start out in the underworld. The world has been destroyed, basically, or the world is gone. Terranigma is sort of the birth of it's you rebuilding the world. And so it's this empty... The underworld feels like this empty place. It's sort of surreal, covered in crystals and lava. So I feel like it really... That hollow sound is meant to sort of echo the fact that you're starting out with this empty world. And, as the game goes on, I think the music does become a little more organic, a little more natural, because you're rebuilding Earth, basically, and the continents and the mountains and the sky and everything is coming in. Really great. And I think the song has great build-up, too, that sort of encapsulates that progression, that it would be called Light and Darkness. The game starts out in darkness, and you eventually bring light to the world. It's very creation myth-esque, I think, and I really like it. I'm a big fan of Terranigma's music.
I like it a lot too. This actually was my favorite out of the pieces that I hadn't heard before when I listened to it for the first time. I agree. Kind of, it moves through. It's almost like it's a symphonic piece, and it has different movements. And it goes from one theme to another. I think I mentioned it kind of sounds like it should be cutscene music almost. Like it should be the opening cutscene, because it just goes from like a hero's theme to a quiet sort of main theme, and then almost sort of like a holy or a saintly part there at the end with the harp playing. Well, I think it's a harp.
Yeah, like you imagine this playing like as it pans over a Mode 7 world map or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Great stuff. Good pick, Mike. Speaking of good picks, Caitlin, who doesn't love Sakimoto? We all love Sakimoto.
Nobody doesn't love Sakimoto, at least nobody that I know of.
Nobody that I like.
I mean, hey, yeah. If you're a friend of mine, you like Sakimoto. Just saying.
Yeah, and to speak specifically to this song, you pointed out that Sakimoto is often called a composer of themes. He's not a composer of like, hey, I wrote a melody. This is the Final Fantasy VII battle theme. He writes themes and then plays on those themes throughout his scores. That's one of my favorite things to be done musically. It makes things feel very cohesive. Final Fantasy Tactics has a distinctive sound that just has all of these themes recurring. Final Fantasy 12 has it. Valkyria Chronicles has it. It's just, and that's why Casey Orman's piano arrangement too does such a great job of pulling together those disparate themes, because this is music that is very strongly written. This is music. This is not written to be simple melodies and stuff, and there's nothing wrong with those. I love them. This is music that's meant to be sweeping. It's meant to be like a film score, or, this is meant to create a musical world that goes with these games. And you can always identify Sakimoto's pieces. It has this, he's often tapped to do soundtracks for games that have sort of a military aesthetic or a war aesthetic. Evil East games also have him. 12 doesn't have necessarily a military aesthetic, but it definitely has that overtones of war. And this one in particular has like that military march vibe that I love about his stuff. It feels like you should be listening to this as a battle march when you're moving forward with your troops. Good stuff.
Which is fitting that it's a battle theme, and it's the first sort of like tutorial. We're going to teach you how to play this game battle. The first Valkyria Chronicles did a very similar thing, where the very first battle got you used to the game was essentially a upbeat battle version of the main theme of the game. It's a very beautiful main theme in Valkyria Chronicles 2, which you only it's on a title screen. You probably don't hear all of it because you're like, I want to start the game. But it's very beautiful, and I love how he's adapted it here to a battle theme. And it's a great battle theme to start the game because it has lots of energy and movement, and you really kind of want to get going with it. And I love when the main theme starts playing in the refrain and the bass starts to move with it. It feels like it speeds up just a little bit, and you get just that much more energy from it. And I love it. I can't get enough of it.
The part that starts around 105 when it's like dun 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 dun, like it's just
Yes.
I've said that a lot today, but that's my I don't have words for how much I like it. And then the last track, speaking of I don't have words for how much I like it, the Curtain Call Special Medley. It's so you pointed out, and I think it's a fair criticism, not necessarily criticism of the song, but a wish that it had included a track from each game. But I like what it did do, and that's it includes one track from each game at the beginning of each generation. It's got the prelude theme from 1, and all the games. The main theme of FF4. It's got track from FF10, and it plays Blinded by Light, or Lightning's theme. So I love that it captures the beginning of each generation of Final Fantasy in this song. The video has all of the games, so if you can, definitely go on YouTube and watch the video of this if you haven't seen it. It makes you feel warm and fuzzy about Final Fantasy. It's just great.
Well, I like this because they actually released this EMS. I forget what the full name of it is. They released the movie with the music, I think, as a promo for the game. At least I remember seeing it before it came out here. So maybe it wasn't that the case for the Japanese release. But it was sort of like an intro for me to the game. And then it's hard for me, again, like you, Stephen, to put into words just the awesomeness to have all those themes one after the other. The thing I really liked about it was how it intersperses the main theme or the prelude of the series with a couple of the entries. Like 7's main theme is in there, and you hear the main theme of the series, I think, interspersed, and it does it again with Seki Dane from 10. Mm-hmm. Which I love that. That's a really clever way to, link those games, to have those games' themes there and have them be distinct, but still link them back into the series as a whole.
Yeah, it's sort of like I talked about in my review of Curtain Call, where, half of it was just me waxing nostalgic about how much I love Final Fantasy. This is sort of a musical way of tapping into the spirit of Curtain Call. Curtain Call is very much a game that is celebratory, and I feel like this song is that same thing. And that's why, I feel like they're in a good place now, with where they're getting that series. They're getting it, back to the sort of the prestige that it carries. 13 is not universally loved, but none of them are, sort of, I would think. But I feel like this is a really good, looking forward to the future kind of medley that I like a lot. And a great finale for the show, too, of our topic.
Yes, yeah, I agree.
It's one of the best, medleys I think I've heard. That must have been really... It seems like that was a lot of work. It's not like you said, it's like, okay, we're going to make a medley of, the Super Nintendo games. So you do 4, 5, and 6. It's like, no, we're going to do something that covers, 26 years now?
20 many years. More years than I've been around.
Yeah, 26, 27 years of, the history of this thing. And it's just great. It's really, I love it in the game or the video, too, because you have, footage of all of the different games along with it. And
they picked footage from some of my favorite 9 cutscenes. So, even 14's in there, the Dalamud falling videos in there, and it's awesome.
Yep.
Oh, goodness. The climax of the song is great, too. The intro, I love that it's just that music box and sort of the 8-bit, boo, 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 and it sort of builds in terms of the maturity of the instruments used to play it and, the complexity. goes from like just the beeps and the music box and the piano solos to like this sweeping finale. Just tasty. It's ear tasty. But I think that pretty much does us for our topic for today. Hopefully everybody enjoyed it. I think good work with this one, Caitlin. It's both apropos, what with you passing on the torch from Derek to you. And I think also what with, it's an interesting topic that we wanted to do intro themes for a while. Sort of like when we did our summer chill episode that turned into a lot of town themes. This ended up turning into a lot of intro themes. And I think that's great because we wanted to do that topic for a while. But this is a bit more of a creative way to do it. It's something fun, too, because I feel like, we're getting ready to move into a new year, the second year of the show, and I think this is a great way to sort of transition us into that new frontier. So thanks, everybody, for listening. Caitlin, thank you for joining us. Mike, thank you for joining us often. We haven't had an episode in a while. It's been, we've been reconfiguring how we do the website, but we're going to be getting back to a more regular schedule. And, if you have any suggestions for the show in the future, we definitely want to hear them. Ideas for topics, things you want to hear. We are going to be planning our Music of the Year episode very soon. I've sort of been poking around some ideas, and I want to outdo last year, or at the very least live up to last year in terms of breadth. So if you've got some audience picks that you want to hear, if you've got a song you want to hear us play, no requirement. If there's just a cool song that you think is rad, email me, message us on the RPG Fan boards. You can get us on Twitter. Any way you get in touch with us, just tell us what you want to hear. I keep a running list, and it's definitely something that I'd love to do again because that was a lot of fun to sort of have an audience-generated episode.
And where can they email us?
They can email us at, Caitlin, what's the address?
You can email us at music@rpgfan.com.
It's so easy to remember, music@rpgfan.com. And if you want to get us on Twitter, you can get at me at SJMTaylor.
You can get me at Lean_Kazerl.
And I'm at Valkyrie Studio, all one word.
Talk to us on Twitter. We love to talk about the music. If you have ideas, we got to hear them. So we normally do our guest choice. Caitlin is no longer a guest, but she was a guest. But this is her spotlight episode. You're the new one. So I let you pick. And what did you pick? I know what you picked. For once, I know the surprise.
Oh, so I spoiled it for you, didn't I?
Well, I
had to.
You had to. You had to tell me what the song was because it's not available on YouTube.
But I don't know what it is. Tell me. Introduce
the song to Mike, please.
Sure. Hey, Mike.
Hello.
Are you excited for Final Fantasy Type 0?
Absolutely not.
Well, you should be because it's coming out.
Right click, drop from call.
So yes, I'm sure we are all excited, and I'm sure everyone's excited about Type 0 HD coming out here March. Is it March 17th, I think?
Very soon. March. Yeah, I think it's March 17th.
Yeah, it's March sometime, so we're all super excited. So I picked, this is from the opening cutscene. It's Zero by Bump of Chicken, vocalist, the vocal theme for Type 0. This is an acoustic version of the track that plays actually during the cutscene, during the opening credits. It's very somber and quiet compared to the album version, which is very fitting because, no spoilers, but there's some serious dark stuff that happens in the opening. It's really kind of a dark opening for a Final Fantasy game.
It certainly is.
And something sad happens right when this loads in, and the guitar perfectly fits the mood, and then you have Moto Fujiwara's very unique and raw vocals. I love his voice. I've been a fan of Bump of Chicken ever since Karma from Tales of the Abyss. So I was super excited, like, hey, I get Bump of Chicken in my Final Fantasy. Wow. And it's a really beautiful song. So I watched the opening after the TGS trailer came out because I just had to have more Type 0, and I had to pick this track because of that.
It won't disappoint. And you'll make Mac from RP Gamer very happy, too, because he's an Ishimoto fan. And I think this arrangement is actually done by Ishimoto. But anyways, Caitlin, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
In case the listeners were curious, we were planning on doing another episode with Sean Shafiansky. Sean's a little busy now, but we're going to be getting him back very soon to do our secret topic episode, which we haven't revealed yet. So please look forward to it. And for Caitlin and Mike and myself, thanks everybody for listening as always. And taking us out is the opening version of Zero from Final Fantasy Type 0.
Kawari ni inori no uta で炎になるのだろう続くものの灯火に瞳の色は夜の色透明な空と同じ黒確かさに置いていかれて探して見つめすぎたから配られた地図がとても正しくどこかへ体を運んでいく早すぎる世界ではぐれないように聞かせてただ一つのその名前を終わりまであなたといたいそれ以外確かな思いがないここでしか息ができない何と引き換えても守り抜かなきゃ考える西のふもとに行こういつかきっと他に誰もいない場所へ